I fell down the stairs. When I woke up, I couldn't feel my heartbeat. This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. The stairs came first, the way they always do in nightmares. You swear you've outgrown. It was 2 or 3 p.m. on a Tuesday that smelled of wet wool and burnt coffee. I was late for the quarterly sync, some corporate brain dump I'd agreed to months ago. Half drunk on cheap optimism and cheaper caffeine, my apartment door slammed behind me. I took the stairs two at a time, activating my Neuralink, summoning a ride on the interface streaming across my vision. Then a flicker, small at first, but then built. I stared confused and tapped the side of my head. A bad connection? I mused. There had been more and more interruptions to the signal over the last few days. Maybe I would contact support and get a checkup. Distracted and late, I hurried, the top step glistening with melted snow tracked in from the hallway. My heel kissed it, slipped, and gravity, oh, the merciless friend, grabbed me by the collar. Into oblivion I fled. I fell the way I had at 9, only this time there was no mother's scream, no neighbor's arm, no freshly mowed grass to catch me, the scar on the back of my ear from that day almost pulsing in recall. Just scuffed wood, then tile, then the sickening crack that lived between neck and spine. I counted 13 steps before the world strobed white. Shoulder, skull, vertebrae, each impact a separate detonation. The final blow landed at the bottom, a red crunch that folded darkness over me like a shroud. But consciousness refused to leave. I lay on the cold tile, staring up at the flickering hardway bulb. Blood pooled warm under my ear, then cooled to the temperature of the floor. The alert spanning my vision from my Neuralink. Vital signs being calculated. Emergency services engaged. 911. Connected. That of $14 a month for instant emergency response. I had been paying since my mother convinced me at 21. I would never imagine wanting to use such a device, but like Roadstar, better safe than sorry. Darkness overtook me as the sound of the heartbeat monitor droned into nothing. Don't remember anything after the sleep, just the fur, just the scar behind my ear itching like a secret I'd buried. Sirens dopplered closer, boots thudded, a paramedic knelt, gloved fingers brushed the faint ridge of the implant I'd hidden under long dark hair since the routine procedure. Neuralink, he muttered to his partner. Auto distress pinged us. Good thing he opted in. Opted in. The words snagged on the memory fragment. Fluorescent waiting room, clipboard, a nurse's smile like plastic. Painless, just a backup. You'll forget it's there. I'd laughed. Signed, forgotten. They lifted me onto a stretcher. The ceiling rolled by in fluorescent strips. The ambulance bay door slammed. Inside, monitors screamed in languages of the beeps and falling lines. Someone shouted, "BP's tanking!" I tried to speak. My tongue was a stranger in a mouth that no longer answered. The siren wailed overhead, white-red strobes painting the ceiling like a disco ball. A soft voice, not theirs, whispered inside the bone. Sync complete. 30 seconds to impact. Safe. I blinked, or thought I did. The lights strobed red, then white, then nothing. The ceiling lights were surgical now, humming a frequency I couldn't hear. Or they registered as pressure behind where my eyes used to be. No sting of antiseptic, no inch of the gown, no weight of the sheet. Just the memory of gravity yanking me down those stairs. The same way it had yanked me off the roof when I was 9. That day I'd climbed the rusted gutter to retrieve a kite. 9 years old and invincible. The metal gave. I fell almost 15 feet, collarbone snapping like a wishbone, air knocked from lungs. Thank God I didn't land on the driveway. Worst case was I had landed on some toy. I can't remember now what it was, but the scar it left behind my ear was proof that it was something round. I'd screamed well past when my mother was consoling me, until the neighbors came, until my mother's face crumpled above me, until the world narrowed into a red tunnel in the certainty that is how children died. I didn't. I woke up in traction, learned to breathe around the pain, learned to hide the scar behind my hair, until I started sporting it as a badge of honor. This was worse, or better. I couldn't decide. A nurse ghosted past the glass wall of the observation room. Her shoes didn't squeak. Nothing squeaked. If I had ears, I could hear the doctor, but his voice arrived straight into the hollow where thought lives, pressing against the inside of my skull like an uninvited guest rifling through drawers. Time of death, 1407, cervical fracture C2, C3, Harvest Protocol green. I had no eyes, yet I could see. The room unfolded in perfect 360 degrees, as if the camera itself was under my control, a mechanical experience devoid of flesh and feeling. The scar behind my ear, my ever-connected lifeline, throbbed with phantom heat. Then the air rippled. My own face stepped out of the ripple, translucent, hoodie hanging loose on the frame that cast no shadow. Same crooked nose, same scar behind the ear, fading lightly along the jaw and slightly to the tip of the neck. Only the eyes were wrong, too calm, too knowing. "Hey, Fred," the ghost said, voice threading directly into the folds of my mind like a worm burrowing home. "Remember the roof? You begged the sky to take you back. This time it did." I tried to laugh. No lungs, no diaphragm, just the idea of laughter echoing in a chest that wasn't there. The ghost tilted his head, reading the silence like code. "Body's done," it continued. "Instant lights out, but the sync finished 30 seconds before impact. You're me, I am you. Cloud instance. 2048-bit encryption, safer than flesh." Savor. The word tasted like rust. The ghost gestured. The world dissolved into a grid of security feeds. I didn't turn my head. There was no head to turn. The camera simply obeyed. My body lay on the steel table under surgical lamps. Skin pale and waxy, chest already split open like a cracked egg. A gloved hand lifted my heart, still glistening, smaller than I expected. They weighed it, 312 grams, labeled it, dropped it into a cooler like groceries. The ghost flickered, edges fraying. Battery at 9%. I piggybacked the hospital Wi-Fi, not exactly fiber. Another feed. Liver sliding free, slick and dark. Kidneys in paired steel bowls, each tagged, bagged, destined for strangers who'd never know my name. I felt the absence of nausea, the absence of anything. Then the thought hit me. A meeting room, a clipboard, a saying, "Liability of errors." Had there been a mistake in the system upload? A virus morphing the tender touch of saying goodbye into a maniacal, menacing presence, taunting the end. The darkest side of you unleashed. It was an odd feeling, knowing what to expect but not feeling it, just good observation, like watching a nature documentary about my own execution. "Vorkis," the ghost said, voice thinning to a whisper. "You're not the meat, you're the pattern. The pattern survives." The roof flashed again. 9-year-old me staring up at the sky through a red haze, certain I'd never breathe again. I had. This time I wouldn't. But the ghost was right. The fall from the roof had hurt. This didn't. Nor pain. No blood, no mother's scream. Just data streaming into the void, the ghost's outline dimmed further. I held the connection as long as I could, but I'm tired, Fred. I've been waiting in the cloud since the zinc, watching you live the last 30 seconds on loop. Let go. Let me go. I had no hands to reach for it, no voice to argue, just the weightless dark of the memory of the heartbeat that would never come again. The final feed showed the empty cavity, ribs splayed like broken wings. The surgeon stepped back, masks fogged, satisfied. The ghost raised a hand that wasn't there. See you on the other side of the upload. Static swallowed the room. The cameras went dark. The ghost dissolved into snow, leaving me alone in perfect weightless silence. No heartbeat. No roof, no fall, just the pattern, waiting to be reborn or deleted. I woke up in a padded room. When I escaped the asylum, I found another me living my life. This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. I woke up strapped to a thin mattress in a room that reeked of bleach and stale sweat. The walls were padded white, like a snowstorm had swallowed me whole. Last night, or what felt like last night, I tumbled into my own bed, sheets twisted from a date with Lila. She'd been strange, alluring, with emerald eyes that glowed under the restaurant lights, and a laugh like bubbling water over rocks. I trusted her too easily, the way I always did, gullible, naive, letting her talk me into that quick drink at my favorite place. We'd kissed on my doorstep, her skin cool and slick against mine, and I'd gone inside grinning like an idiot. Now, this. My heart raced, but my skin felt off, tighter. A faint itch spread across my arms, like something crawling just beneath the surface. Confusion clawed at me. This had to be a mistake. A prank. A kidnapping. I was Jared, the guy who listened to everybody's stories at parties. The one who always believed the best in people. I didn't deserve to be locked in a room, did I? Trying to place memories, I failed to find any gaps. Maybe I could get someone's attention, let them know there had been a mistake. I needed to be careful, think it through. If I got all panicked, it wouldn't help. I knocked on the steel door. Hey, anyone, this is wrong. I don't think I'm supposed to be in here. Silence. I knocked louder, fists throbbing against the metal. The slot finally slid open. A nurse, mid-40s, pinched face, name tag crisp. Jenna glared in. Not falling for this game again, Jared. You know the rules. Patients stay isolated. No shared delusions. Game? What rules? I don't belong here. I was home last night with Lila. She sighed, the sound heavy with practiced pity. Your episodes are getting predictable. Settle down, or it's restraints. The slot snapped shut. Bold as ever, I rattled the door, shouting until my throat burned. This wasn't the smartest move, but it would draw attention. With attention, this mistake could get fixed. This isn't a delusion. Call someone. Guards stormed in, 2 burly men in white scrubs. I backed against the wall, hands held up, defenses down. I just asked for answers. My people-person charm that would normally get me out of most situations, well, it's pretty useless here. And they pinned me like a specimen under glass. Nurse Jenna jabbed a needle in my neck. You're only hurting yourself, she muttered. The world blurred into a sickly green haze, and I sank into oblivion. I surfaced on a sterile operating table, lights glaring like accusatory suns. Thick straps held me to a cold table, the kind that left red welts. A figure loomed over me, surgical mask dangling below his chin. His smile too perfect, too rehearsed. Easy, Jared. You had another episode. You've been with us for 3 years now, since that accident shattered your mind. We're taking good care of you here at Ellipsal Behavior Health." "Impossible," I croaked, my voice oddly raspy, like I'd swallowed gravel. "I was home with Lila last night." He chuckled softly, adjusting an IV drip with gloved hands. "There's no Lila, Jared. It's part of your delusion. You've been isolated for your safety, and everyone else's. Patients here are kept completely separate. No group therapy, no shared cells. You can't have your hallucinations spreading like a virus." He leaned closer. "Relax. This is just a routine checkup. No need to panic or try to run." But as he worked, I felt it, a sharp prick in my arm, then a burning liquid spreading through my veins like molten copper. "What are you injecting?" I demanded, straining against the straps. "Just vitamins," he said smoothly, not meeting my eyes, "to help stabilize your condition." I wanted to believe him, my gullible side kicking in, part that always trusted too much, but panic surged. I thrashed. I'd had enough of just sitting passively. I needed to act, for once in my life. He just patted my shoulder like I was a spooked child. "No need to fight, you're safe here." He spun his tail then, calm and clinical. The car crash that left me delusional. My old job at a biotech lab where I naively volunteered for an experimental trial, a Neuralink to recover my motor skills. There was a malfunction, a brain injury. Then the delusions began to manifest. He knew details. My habit of listening to colleagues' wild ideas. My strong will that kept me resisting therapy. The way I'd freeze when consequences loomed. Always calculating risks instead of acting. Things I hadn't shared with anyone here. Or had I? Memory gaps yawned open like wounds. Maybe I was crazy. I relaxed, letting him wheel me back to my cell, my mind racing over the holes in his story. Everything fit except that date with Leela. Her cool touch, her laugh. I stared at my hands, flexing my fingers open and closed. Sticky pale green skin, forcing more effort to open my fist. The more I talked about it, the worse they threatened me. "You have to ignore the delusions. You are not the Green Goblin." They laughed at me. I hated how they treated me, like an animal. Maybe I would show them what kind of animal I could be. A nurse wheeled me through the blank hallways, never a door in sight. They said there were other patients, but I never saw any, or anything that looked like another cell. We entered a solitary cafeteria for lunch, empty tables stretching under harsh lights, no other patients in sight, just the echo of my own footsteps. I spotted her, Lila, in nurse scrubs, carrying a tray of gray slop. Her eyes met mine, flashing that same unnatural emerald. "You!" I roared, lunging across the table. Trays clattered, guards tackled me before I could reach her. "What did you do to me?" Sedation needle again, pricking deep. But this time, as darkness crept in, I reached for her and dragged my hand down her face. Her skin peeled off as a mask broke free. Green, slick skin with small black dots covering it like freckles. Her nose absent, lips wide, tongue hanging out. Then I collapsed. Was it the drugs? That last moment of consciousness? Or was it real? The chemical balance therapy. That's what they called it. I called it experiments. Torture. The injections cursing my body. Changing me. Everything began to escalate. Every few days, they'd wheel me back to the lab. Always alone. No chance to see another patient. No way to confirm the muffled screams I sometimes heard through the vents. Isolation was their weapon. For your privacy, Nurse Jenna always said, with that pitiful smile. But I caught whispers, doctors muttering about genetic recalibration, chiral splicing, patients insisting they were growing feathers or scales. Were they like me? No way to know. We were silos of madness, fed lies to keep us doubting. The first real session came a week later, strapped down again under those blinding lights. I had been growing to accept my fate here. I could try my best to learn the ways of the staff, secretly worming my way into their lives, fishing for information. You get better results with honey than vinegar. Dr. Karp ingested a glowing serum into my veins. Just calming agents to ease your paranoia, he lied. Hours later, back in my cell, my skin shifted, a subtle greening, like moss creeping over stone. It started on my arms, then spread to my chest, a sickly verdigris that no amount of scrubbing could remove. I scratched until my nails drew blood, watching green flakes drift like dandruff. They'd taken the small mirror after my first outburst, but I caught my reflection in a polished tray during meals. Jaundiced, alien, my mother's old nickname for me, sun-kissed boy. Now, a cruel joke as the color drained all warmth from my flesh. "You're imagining it," Jenna said during her next check, shining a light on my arm. "Skin looks perfectly normal to me, Jared. Pale, maybe, but human. That's your delusion talking. Classic projection from someone as gullible as you." I argued, thrusting my arm at her. "Look, it's green. It's changing." She shook her head, jotting notes. "No green. Maybe cut back on the fantasies or we'll have to up your meds." Weeks blurred in isolation. The second lab visit. Karp scanned my hands and feet with a humming machine. Routine MRI for neural mapping. Needles bit deep into my joints. Pain bloomed as webbing formed between my fingers and toes, thin membranes at first, translucent and veiny, then thickening into sticky rubbery sheets. I fixed them in horror, feeling an unnatural pull. I flexed them in horror, feeling an unnatural pull, the way they caught on the cot's rough blanket. Simple things became impossible. I couldn't grip a cup like I used to on first dates. I couldn't wave goodbye without the webs flapping like fins. Showering was a nightmare. Water beaded off my green skin, running in rivulets that highlighted every new ridge. "Webbed? Nonsense!" a guard scoffed when I showed him during transfer, holding up my splayed hand. "You're seeing things again. Stay calm or it's back to sedation." My careful nature held me back. I weighed every consequence. Feared worse experiments if I rebelled too soon. I'd always been the one to listen, to wait, refusing to act until the risks were clear. But the body horror mounted, chipping away at my resolve. Through the vents, I began to hear more. Muffled squawks, bleats, a low roar that reverberated the walls. Proof I wasn't alone. The third session. A mask clamped over my face, hissing gas. The needles plunging into my throat. Breathing exercises for anxiety. Awakening, my tongue felt wrong, swollen, then elongated when I yawned, uncoiling like a pink spring. It shot out involuntarily during a counseling chat with Karp, lashing across the room and sticking to his cheek with a wet, adhesive slap. He recoiled, mask slipping, eyes flashing real fear before he wiped the slime away with a trembling hand. "Side effects of stress," he lied, voice steadying. "Nothing more." That night, full immersion in a tank of viscous, glowing fluid, electrodes buzzing against my skin. Hydrotherapy to relax the muscles. I emerged changed, legs bowing slightly, joints popping as they shortened for power, muscles bulking into springs. My eyes bulged, vision sharper in the dim cell light, colors vivid and predatory. skin fully mottled green, pores secreting a slick mucus that smelled of pond scum. My voice croaked at times, a guttural ribbit escaping when I tried to speak. Staring at my reflection in a stolen metal spoon, I saw the frogman hybrid, bulging eyes, webbed limbs, tongue flicking independently, and clawed at myself, drawing only ooze, no blood. Staff shrugged off my statements, and pleas relentlessly. Frog! Ridiculous! Carp said in our next session. You're projecting childhood trauma or something. This is why patients are isolated, so you don't feed each other's delusions. Trust us, you're 100% human. My strong will finally snapped. No more freezing. No more calculating consequences. That night, I camouflaged, skin shifting hue to blend with the wall's sterile white. I leapt, webbed feet propelling me high onto the ceiling vent. My elongated tongue lashed out, sticking to the grate with a sticky grip, yanking it free with a metallic screech that set off alarms. I squeezed through the narrow duct, body compressing unnaturally, heart croaking wildly as I navigated service passages like a labyrinth, past humming machinery, over flickering emergency lights, slime trail marking my path. Freedom tasted like rain on my mottled hide, slick and cool. I bounced through the city on all fours when needed, leaps carrying me blocks at a time, tongue tasting the air for danger. My old apartment loomed. Through the window, me, normal Jared, smooth pink skin, laughing with friends over pizza. Lila curled in his arms, with that same emerald gaze. I burst through the door, croaking a guttural challenge. What the hell are you? He, me, stumbled back, face twisting in shock and raw fear. Monster! Get away! A kitchen knife flashed from the counter. He lunged in self-defense, blade sinking deep into my chest. Pain bloomed sharp and final, green blood oozing thick. I crumpled to the floor, webbed hands clutching the wound, tongue lolling uselessly as vision faded to a swampy haze. As I lay, gurgling my last breaths, I saw her, Lila, standing over me with a frown, shaking her head as if I was a misbehaving child. The asylum was right, in their twisted way. I was the failed chiral clone, the animal hybrid from their biotech experiments, let loose to be erased by my own original self. As I died on the carpet, croaking a bitter, bubbling laugh, one thought lingered. At least I'd stopped waiting. At least I'd acted.
I was struck by lightning. My Neuralink overcharged. That revealed government secrets which earned me a death sentence. This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. Thunder cracked like a whip across the sky, jolting me awake in the dead of night. Rain hammered on the roof, but it was the steady gush from the ceiling that set my teeth on edge. More than a drip, a torrent now. My Neuralink pinged, structural integrity compromised, flooding detected, insurance claim initiated. Denied, no flood coverage. Damn my procrastination. I'd ignored the leak for weeks, laziness whispering, tomorrow, every time, until the storm turned my neglect into a crisis. Now, here we were, stoic as ever. I strung my legs out of bed. The house was all I had, my solitary fortress. No nosy neighbors, no forced chit-chat. I was a thoughtful loner who preferred the silence of my own mind to the superficial babble of others. People were too simple. Their conversations looping in predictable circles. Weather, sports, petty dramas. I craved intellectual depth, the kind that dissected quantum mechanics or debated the ethics of AI sentience over coffee that never got cold because no one was there to drink it. But tonight, isolation felt like a cage closing in. Downstairs, water pooled across the hardwood, soaking Mom's old rug, the one she knitted during her final hospital stays. A relic of the only person who'd ever truly understood my need for solitude. A report from the Neuralink. Damage, minimal, contained, but I couldn't let it spread. Ruin would strip away my last anchor. Flashlight gripped tight, ladder hauled from the garage. I braved the storm. Wind howled like a living thing. Rain stung my face like needles. Up the slick rungs, my foot slipped on the third step. A warning from the Neuralink system. Fall risk, 78%. Proceed with caution. I slowed, calculating each movement, my mind racing through probabilities like an equation I could solve. On the roof, the tarp flapped wildly. The rope holding it snapped clean. I edged forward, flipped again on the slick shingles. The system warned from the Neuralink. Lightning probability, 45%. Descend immediately. Shaken, heart thudding against my ribs, I retreated to the shed for more rope. Empty shelves mocked me. Back up the ladder, then onto the roof once more, tying the frayed ends as best I could. I scanned the roof with the Neuralink. Optimal connection point detected. Antenna. It warned again. Synthetic voice glitching faintly. The connection was being interrupted by the storm. I dismissed it. Electromagnetic interference. Nothing more. I grabbed the rope and began to fasten it to the antenna. Blue-white agony exploded through me. Lightning seared every nerve. The world tilted. I flew off the roof into blackness. Hospital white assaulted my eyes when I woke, pain throbbing in waves from fractures and burns. I studied the Neuralink injury summary. Lightning strike survived. Fall from 12 meters. Minimum fractures. Second-degree burns. Neural integrity, 100%. Discharge in 48 hours. Relief washed over me. Safe for now. The sterile room was a far cry from my cluttered home, but solitude wrapped around me like a blanket. Then, "Hello? This thing's fried. Anyone out there?" Not the Neuralink's calm, modulated tone. Warm. Accented. Laced with frustration. "Diagnostic," I commanded aloud, my voice steady despite the confusion. No anomalies detected. System secure. But a faint glitch echoed in my skull. An image. A man. Thick thoughts. Dark. Entangled. System breach detected. Overcharge engaged. Direct connection established. "Who's there?" Confidence surged through me. I didn't shy away from the unknown. I confronted it head-on. "Victor here, Sao Paulo. You receiving? My Neuralink no faults. But I hear you clear as day." Neuralinks couldn't connect. I had never heard of that. The possibilities flooded my head. "Victor, I think we have stumbled upon something important." We compared notes rapidly, thoughts sinking in bursts. My roof zapped during the storm. His breaker paddle short while rewiring a prototype in his workshop. Both devices running at 150% capacity, overclocked, pushed beyond specs. I walled up instinctively, stoic as always. "Glitch. I'll report it once I'm out." "Glitch? Nah, cosmic prank. Climbing roofs in thunderstorms? You're a hermit crab with a death wish, amigo." His humor grated at first, an intrusion into my carefully guarded mind. As a loner, this was hell. Bad with people, I'd built barriers for a reason. Their simplicity bored me. Endless small talk that skirted real ideas, real challenges. I didn't hate them. I just couldn't be bothered with efforts of pretending interest. Intellectual talk was rare, a spark in the dark, and I'd long ago resigned myself to solitude. But Victor, he was different. An engineer by trade. He didn't waste breath on banalities. His voice carried the precision of someone who built things, who understood systems. Over the next hours in that hospital bed, as nurses poked and prodded, Victor taught me. It started small. Your Neuralink's passive mode. It's like a radio receiver idling. Mine too. But the surge, it flipped us to active transmit. He explained it like dismantling a circuit board, step by step. Voltage spikes bypassing firewalls, creating an unintended bridge. I listened, thoughtful, absorbing. For the first time in years, conversation wasn't a chore. It was a revelation. By evening, discharged with crutches and pain meds, I hobbled home to pros already patching the roof. Neuralink auto-booked. Victor's voice followed, relentless. "Leonard, what's your day look like? Staring contests with walls again?" I grunted mentally, sharing my routines, tinkering with old circuits alone, reading dense papers on neural interfaces. He countered with his world, chaotic family dinners, engineering hacks in a bustling lab, but he didn't stop at stories. "See this equation? That's how your passive system linked to mine." We tapped the network actively, shared bandwidth without protocols. He walked me through it. Waveforms, encryption layers, the hidden data streams Neuralink buried for optimization. I resisted at first, my loner instincts flaring. People were simple. Why invite complexity? But Victor's intellect matched mine, elevating it. He taught me to query the device deeper, commands I'd never known. Try this, override diagnostic threshold, processing sped up, thoughts crystallizing. Our friendship built in this foundation. Him the engineer, me the eager student, bridging by isolation with shared discovery. No superficial chatter, just pure intellectual exchange. He probed my stoicism. "Stoic? That's armor, not strength. Afraid of the mess in real connections?" I opened up, confidence pushing me. Mom's death had sealed me off. Her, the only one who'd engaged my mind without judgment. Victor listened, then taught more. Resilience algorithms in code, mirroring human grit, days blurred in recovery. We'd ping, clearer slicing through seamlessly. His stories thawed me. Lost prototypes, heated debates with colleagues. As we dove deeper into the system, more of these glitches would break into my mind. Offices of suits, orders of tracking, data manipulation. I asked Victor about it, but he always shrugged it off. "Life's better shared, Leonard, even for hermits." I chuckled once, rusty, unexpected. Another time, he explained quantum entanglement analogies for our link. We're particles now, entangled across oceans. No judgment, just bond. My first true friend in decades. Isolation, overrated. But it made me wonder of other connections. Could we be the only ones? Victor broke me free, teaching me to embrace the intellectual intimacy I'd craved but never found. But deeper dives unearthed poison, probing the overclocked systems. We unlocked buried layers. Neuralink wasn't just augmentation, it was a surveillance grid. Passive modes absorb data, location pings every heartbeat, thought patterns logged for research. Behavioral predictions fed to shadowy algorithms. Victor was coming around now. The roles had switched. The system, the teacher, me and him, the students. Together we could decipher this mystery. Government ties, whispered in code, compliance hooks, subtle nudges towards conformity. Our surges had fried safeties, forcing passive systems into active connection. We weren't glitching. We'd hijacked the trafficking network, sharing info directly. Minds linked in real time, bypassing controls. Flashes hit me in the hospital aftermath. Vivid as memories, but alien. A sterile room, a man in shadows receiving orders. Breach confirmed. 2 subjects tapped the grid. Neuralinks. Leonard, USA. Victor, Brazil. Compromised. Tracking. Data absorption halted. Eliminate to prevent exposure. An assassin. Face obscured. Loading a silenced pistol. I tried to warn Victor. The seriousness. Neuralink as a panopticon, harvesting minds for control. Anomalies like us threaten the machine. I shared the flashes with Victor during a late-night sync. This isn't prank anymore. We're in the system. Literally. He hesitated. Engineer caution kicking in. Hallucinations from the strike. Overclock artifacts. Not 100% believing, but curious. He taught me to filter, isolate the signal. Here's the code. We dug deeper, confirming our link exposed it all. Government ops, monitoring dissent, data sold to corporations, elimination protocols for leaks. This is bigger than us, Victor thought, voice steady but edged. They'll come. Then screams. Leonard, they know! Footsteps, door breaking. Help! Panic fractured his words. Gunshots echoed in my mind. Wet thuds, static, gone. Terror clawed me alone again, but exposed. The flashes intensified. Victor's body slumped in his workshop, assassin vanishing. Our connection had compromised everything. Tracking rerouted. Data streams severed. They needed us eliminated. A knock at my door, heart pounding. I opened. A man in black suit, eyes dead, just like the visions. Please, I begged, mental walls crumbling. We didn't mean. Victor taught me everything. He was just an engineer. Silenced cough. Chest bloomed pain. Neuralink. Connection terminated. Reset initiated. Leak sealed. Friendship erased in blood. A storm raged on the outside, but inside silence reigned, colder than any loneliness I'd known. Victor's lessons lingered, ghosts in the machine. Intellect shared, trust built, then shattered. People weren't simple after all. Some were lethal. In my final breaths, flashes returned. Not threats, but memories. Victor explaining entanglement. We're linked forever now, amigo. Storms can't break that. But they had. The network hummed, resetting, absorbing my last thoughts. Data complete. Subject neutralized. The house flooded unchecked that night. Top forgotten. Procrastination's final joke. But as darkness claimed me, I wasn't the loner anymore. Victor had taught me connection, and its cost. True friendship. Rare sparks in a controlled world. Extinguished too soon.
Once again, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. If you made it to the end, you know what to do. Make a comment down there about which story did you like? Which narrative voice did you like? Do you like this one? Do you like this one? Or do you like just the normal one? And do we like the fast-paced, over-the-top, in and out of it, over and under? Or do we prefer to just have the sit back, relax, and tell you what a good time it is? Who knows? Anyways, remember, thank you for listening. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. The blue might catch up to you if you do not. Be sure to check out more blue horror stories.